Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going on a journey, a captivating journey. We're diving into a story that might just change the way we think about history and about our planet itself. We've been exploring this project called TATANKA, specifically their Antarctic story, 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, the Keeper of the Flame. And wow, it's quite a ride.
It really is. If you're the kind of person who loves uncovering hidden stories, the possibility of, lost civilizations, you'll love this deep dive.
Exactly. And it's like a shortcut, right? It distills everything down to the essentials.
Right, it is. It's like a fast track into a really rich and an imaginative world. One that, by the way, explores some really deep themes.
Oh, yeah. Big themes, for sure. Like resilience and the whole interplay of, the forces of nature in our world. So where's our material coming from? Well, mainly the TATANKA website. It does a really deep dive, no pun intended, into this whole narrative of 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 and this civilization called Antarctica. Like we said, we get a glimpse into their culture, who 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 was, even lyrics from this AI-generated album that's inspired by the story.
It's amazing how AI can help us access these, potentially lost worlds.
Right. And speaking of lost worlds, remember a while back when Google's Deep Dive podcast did that episode about myths and lost civilizations in Antarctica? Well, the TATANKA project kind of builds on that,
It does. It definitely taps into that same sense of mystery, that fascination with the unknown. Like, what secrets are hidden in those icy landscapes?
Totally. So for this deep dive, here's the plan. We want to figure out, what was this Antarctic civilization all about? And we want to trace the journey of 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, this, central figure, and see what we can learn from the themes of balance and resilience that run through it all.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so first things first, let's talk about the setting. Forget the frozen wasteland we think of today, right? This story, it takes us back to a time when Antarctica was completely different. Imagine a land of fire and frost.
Right, this vibrant, dynamic world, a world where fire and frost coexisted.
Yeah, and the people of Antarctica, they called this place home. But what really grabbed me was their role. They weren't just living there, they were caretakers. They believed they had to maintain a balance between these elemental forces, these opposing forces.
It's a powerful concept, right? Not dominance over nature, but a responsibility to maintain its harmony.
Yeah, totally different from how we often think about our relationship with nature today, right?
It makes you think.
It does. So they weren't just randomly trying to keep things balanced. Their whole belief system was built around it. They saw themselves as keepers of balance. It was like their core identity. Between fire and ice, between sun and shadow,
And this belief, it wasn't just a nice idea. It was fundamental to their entire culture, the way they lived, their society, their worldview, everything.
Yeah. And their mythology, their stories, they really drive this point home. They talk about this ancient time when the world was divided by these elemental forces. It was like a primordial struggle. And the Antarctic people believed they were chosen to maintain the peace between them.
A sacred duty, almost.
Right. It gives you a sense of their place in the cosmos.
Definitely. And it makes you think, with all the environmental challenges we face today, what can we learn from this perspective, this idea of being connected to nature, not dominating it?
Absolutely. And it wasn't just mythology, right? Their whole civilization reflected this. They built these massive structures called pillars of the sky. They were like giant monoliths carved with all their cosmic knowledge.
Wow. Imagine that. These towering structures reaching for the sky, preserving their understanding of the universe.
Yeah. They were clearly deeply connected to celestial events. They were thinking long-term about their place in the grand scheme of things.
A long-term perspective is definitely something we could use more of today.
Right. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Their language, 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, it was unique. It wasn't just spoken, it was sung.
Sung. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And the lyrics from that AI-generated album, they reflect this. It was almost like a ritualistic form of communication. Maybe sound and vibration held a deeper meaning for them.
Like a way to connect with the elemental forces.
Maybe. Then we have their symbols, circles, everywhere, representing cycles of time, rebirth. They didn't see existence as a straight line. It was a circle, always repeating.
That's so different from our linear way of thinking.
I know, right? It suggests they had a deep understanding of natural rhythms. And maybe a different approach to life and death, even.
A more holistic perspective, perhaps. Less about beginnings and endings, more about the constant flow of things.
Yeah. Now let's talk about their spiritual beliefs. This is where it gets really wild. They revered the cold.
The cold, really?
Yeah. They didn't fear it like we do. They saw the deep ice as holding the wisdom of the past, like a frozen library waiting to be unlocked.
That's so counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but also kind of beautiful.
Right. And they're shamans. They were called veil walkers. They'd venture into these, like, ice caverns, seeking knowledge from these beings called the frozen gods. But here's the twist. These gods were indifferent, like totally uncaring.
Indifferent gods. That's a new one.
I know, right? They were described as beings of ice and shadow existing outside of human concerns.
So how did the Antarctic people deal with that? Praying to gods who didn't care.
It seems like their practices were more about understanding these forces, these laws of nature, rather than asking for favors.
That makes sense, in a way.
Yeah. But this idyllic world, it didn't last. Their legends talk about the fall of Antarctica in this period called the Long Twilight. The sun grew distant, a never-ending storm raged. Their world was literally freezing over.
Sounds bleak.
It was. But even then, they didn't give up. Some of their sages sought refuge in the last sanctum, deep beneath the ice. They were trying to preserve what they could, their knowledge, their culture.
Talk about resilience. Facing total annihilation and still fighting to save what matters.
It's incredible, right? And, there's this tantalizing connection to the real world. The TATANKA project mentions strange anomalies found in Antarctic ice cores, like unexplained patterns that could hint at something.
Like maybe there's some truth to these legends.
It makes you wonder, right? It blurs the line between myth and reality. So we've got this amazing picture of the people of Antarctica. Now let's meet their central figure, 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗓, the Keeper of the Flame.
What a title. Keeper of the Flame.
Yeah.
It already tells you she's someone special.
It does, right? She's not just a leader. She's the last great matriarch of her people. She embodies their spirit, their legacy. And her story, oh man, it's epic. Transformation, loss, discovery, and ultimately, rebirth.
Classic hero's journey, but with this incredible Antarctic twist.
Yeah. And it's interesting how they describe her as a vessel. Like she carries the weight of her entire civilization on her shoulders. Her journey, it's not just her own, it reflects the hopes and memories of her people.
It's like she carries their collective consciousness with her.
Exactly. So let's follow her journey, chapter by chapter. We start with the dawn of Antarctica. This is the good old days before the ice. A time of vibrancy, balance, peace.
A paradise lost, almost. It sets the stage for the tragedy to come.
It does. And we learn about their society, their values. No jealousy, no possessions, only pure devotion to the balance of life. Imagine that.
It's almost utopian. A society based on harmony and spiritual values rather than material wealth.
Right. And even then, there were hints of change. Subtle shifts in the earth, the stars. They called it the Great Change. But no one understood what it meant.
They were aware of these changes, but they didn't fully grasp the scale of what was coming.
Yeah. And it's 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, even as a young apprentice, who first notices these signs. She's always been connected to the wisdom of the elders, the rhythms of nature.
It highlights her sensitivity, her attunement to the world around her.
Right. And then she has these visions. One is of the past, a glorious past filled with sunshine and laughter. That's her inheritance, the legacy she carries. But then she sees a man, 𝗬𝗕𝗓. He's described as her balance, her other half.
Their connection, it seems destined, almost cosmic.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? The elders always spoke of the matriarchs leading, but not about the warriors who stood beside them.
Yep.
𝗬𝗕𝗓 represents this different kind of strength, a quiet, unwavering support.
It's a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding.
Totally. And then the first frost arrives, the change begins. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 takes her place as matriarch, young but wise, knowing what's coming, feeling 𝗬𝗕𝗓's love beside her.
It's a beautiful image, a moment of calm before the storm.
It is. And then we enter the veil of time. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 embraces her leadership, facing challenges, going deeper into her connection with the frozen gods.
It's a period of growth, of stepping into her power.
Yeah. And her relationship with 𝗬𝗕𝗓 deepens. Their love is described as a cosmic force, a balance between agape and eros, not ownership, but a union that encompasses the whole world.
Wow, that's a profound way to describe love, a connection that transcends the individual.
Right. And there's this detail that really stood out to me. The women didn't take the men's names. The men took names chosen by the women. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 named her mate 𝗬𝗕𝗓, hunter of the lost paths.
It speaks to the matriarchal structure of their society, but also to the depth of their bond.
Yeah. And 𝗬𝗕𝗓, he embodies that name. He's a protector, a guide through the unknown. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 describes him as the spear's edge, the prow cutting ice, a silent watcher. He's her strength, her unwavering support.
It's a beautiful partnership. Two halves of a whole facing the coming darkness together.
Exactly. And that darkness arrives in the long twilight. The ice advance is relentless, unstoppable. Antarctic's world is swallowed by this eternal storm.
It's heartbreaking seeing their world crumble.
It is. And 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗡 she faces an impossible choice. She can't save everything, so she makes the decision to lead her people to the last sanctum, this hidden refuge beneath the ice.
It's a moment of immense responsibility, a leader making the toughest call imaginable.
Yeah, and it comes at a cost. Some stay behind, choosing their own fate. Others vanish in the ice, lost forever.
The human cost of this catastrophe, it's palpable.
It is. So they descend into this underworld, this realm of the frozen gods. It's a desperate gamble, a leap into the unknown.
It's a whole new chapter in their story, leaving the surface world behind and venturing into the icy depths.
Right. And time passes. Years turn into decades in echoes in the ice. The world above remains frozen, their culture is slowly fading as they cling to survival.
The struggle to preserve their identity in this hostile environment, it's a powerful theme.
It is. But then, a glimmer is hope. 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗧 discovers a message, a relic from the time before the ice. It speaks of a cycle, a promise of eventual thawing.
Wow. A message from the past offering hope for the future.
Yeah. It's like a reminder that even in the darkest times, change is inevitable. And then we come to the return of the cycle, the final chapter in 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗧's life. She reflects on everything she's been through, the losses, the victories.
This is a moment of closure, of coming to terms with her legacy.
Yeah. And she wants to make sure their story isn't forgotten. So she carves the final glyph on the last pillar of the sky, preserving their history for whoever might find it.
It's a powerful act of defiance, a way of saying, we were here, we mattered.
Right. And then her journey ends. But the story of Antarctica, it lives on, carried on the winds, waiting to be rediscovered.
It's a bittersweet ending, but ultimately hopeful. The memory of their civilization persists.
Yeah. And, the TATANKA project goes beyond just the story. It explores all this fascinating symbolism associated with 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗧𝗧, like the third eye, representing inner vision, intuition, a connection to universal wisdom.
It's like she had access to a higher level of consciousness, a deeper understanding of reality.
Right. And then there are the pendants she wears. They're not just decoration, they carry the essence of ancient teachings, the balance of earth, sky, and water.
It's like each pendant holds a piece of their wisdom, a connection to their past.
Yeah. And her garment, it's described as being woven from invisible realms like spiritual energy. It changes colors, reflecting her connection to these cosmic forces.
It's a beautiful image, visually stunning.
Oh, yeah. And then there's this idea of the presence behind her. It's not a physical being, but a force, a collective consciousness of all the ancestors, all their wisdom and experiences.
Wow. It's like she's guided and supported by the spirits of her people.
Yeah. And it's amazing how this whole narrative ties into another story, the Song of 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗧, an Antarctic woman's journey with Orchestra Americana. It's like a modern-day continuation of the themes we've been exploring.
The idea of cultural preservation, resilience, it carries forward into the present.
Exactly. 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗧𝗧, she's a modern Antarctic woman who rediscovers these lost melodies, these echoes of her people's past.
It's like a bridge between the ancient and the modern, a testament to the enduring power of culture.
And she goes on this incredible journey, connecting with TATANKA's Orchestra Americana, this amazing ensemble of musicians from all over the world.
It's a beautiful example of cultural exchange, different traditions coming together to create something new.
Yeah. And the conductor, he's so moved by her story, her passion. 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗧𝗧 teaches them the ancient rhythms, the drumming like glaciers, the flute-like wing through ice tunnels.
Imagine that, bringing those ancient sounds to life with a modern orchestra.
It's incredible, right? And the performance itself, it's described as a symphony of resilience, this journey through history and hope, transcending time and culture.
It's like a celebration of their heritage, a way of keeping their story alive.
Yeah. And 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗧𝗧, she returns home, bringing the recordings, the inspiration. The young people, they're eager to learn. Antarctica is singing again, not as a whisper, but as a roar.
That's powerful. It shows how tradition can be revitalized, how the past can inspire the future.
It does. So what can we take away from all this? Well, understanding the past, even the mythical past, it can teach us so much about who we are, about the values that matter, balance, resilience, connection to nature, And 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧's story, it shows us the power of sharing those stories, keeping them alive through collaboration, through cultural exchange.
It's a reminder that our heritage, it's not static. It's a living thing that evolves and adapts as we do.
Absolutely. And I hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, made you think about the mysteries hidden in our world, in our history.
And maybe even inspired you to think about your own connection to the past, to the stories that shape who you are.
Yeah. And I leave you with this thought. Karen Armstrong, she said, myths help us to venerate the earth as sacred. What if stories like 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗧𝗧 could change how we see our planet, how we treat it?
It's a powerful question, one worth pondering, especially as we face the environmental challenges of today.
It is. Can we learn from the past, from these ancient tales of balance and resilience, to create a more sustainable future? That's the question I leave you with.
It's a question for all of us.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Until next time.
Take care.